Hello, Christ is among us. I am continuing my conversation on a guide to the domestic church, and I'm talking to you from my kiddos' library. Our Arizona room has these awesome plant shelves, which we turned into bookshelves because my kiddos love to read. So coming to you from the library or Arizona room today to talk about fasting. And it was the next topic in order in our book, but I really thought it was very fitting, being that we're right in the midst of the traditional nativity fast. The Melkite Eparchy in America has, of course, abbreviated that fast, and we officially begin on December 10th. But either way, we are in a time of preparation for the nativity of our Lord. So it's a great time to think about, pray about, and work on our fasting. So growing up, I grew up Roman Catholic, and fasting was not a huge part of our spirituality, at least in my family as we practiced it. And so when I became Melkite, this was really a sticking point for me. And not only did I not know how to fast, I didn't know why we had to fast so much. And so for me, an important hurdle when we talk about fasting are addressing those 2 points. Number one, why are we doing this? If we're only doing it because the church said so, number one, we're going to resent it. Number two, we're not going to do it very well. And number three, we're going to gain very little benefit from it. And the second point, if we don't know how, we're going to have a lot of feelings of guilt and failure because we simply fall short of this goal that we've set for ourselves with our spiritual life. So when I think about the why, for me, the first thing that motivated me to truly start fasting and observing the church's guidelines for fasts was that Christ did it himself, that our Lord set fasting aside as an example of how to prepare yourself for a spiritual and physical struggle. Our Lord fasted, and if we want to be like God, then we should also fast as well. In addition to that, after I attempted my first full fast for Great Lent, I had never looked more forward to a steak in my life come Easter. And so what I learned from that experience was that fasting actually makes the feast. I think in America, things come so easily to us in general that we get in essentially a permanent state of feasting. And we are just constantly indulging ourselves and indulging our children in every whim and every desire because it's available to us, because we can. And so when we take a temporary pause from these good things, we enjoy them all the more because they are set aside as special, as celebratory. And then we take a pause to reflect on what we have there. And then once I got through those pieces, I really have found so much spiritual growth and spiritual benefit from fasting. When we fast, I've said this before, we need to make sure we're not going on a diet. Our Lord does not care about a diet. However, he does care about us controlling our physical desires, so we are better prepared to control our spiritual shortcomings. So when we strengthen our physical body and our ability to say no to food, we are strengthening our ability to say no to sin. And our Lord is very much interested in that. So on the practical side, which is of course the side that I typically try and address for you, it can be hard to fast as a family. I think it can be intimidating, and it's so countercultural. And I think many of us who were not raised fasting as children, we're learning as adults ourselves. And I know for my husband and I, we really want to create better habits for our children so that this is so much easier for them as they get older. So a couple of things that really helped me that I want to share with you is, first off, on the how. I have 2 cookbooks that I really love. The first is Fasting as a Family by Melissa Nasco, and the second is The Byzimom's Guide to the Great Fast by Lynn Wardock. Both of these books are funny and inspiring. They give the whys for why we fast. They give you motivation and reasoning to jump on board. They also address fasting as a family. So it's not a monastery, strained pea soup. These are recipes that the whole family can enjoy. And not only are they recipes lined out, but there's meal plans as well. Both cookbooks also provide some awesome pantry staples and snack ideas, just some great things that can help you to be more successful on the cooking and planning side of a fast. So I really recommend both of those, getting yourself a resource, getting yourself a recipe. And then of course there's tons of vegan recipes online that aren't geared towards Christians. But there really is quite a plethora of recipes available to you if you just start looking at them. I keep a binder in my house of recipes that I've printed out from online. When I see something intriguing, I put it in the front folder and we try it. If it's garbage or it doesn't go over well, it goes in the trash. If it goes over well, it gets added to the binder. And then when I'm doing my meal planning, I have a whole binder full of recipes that I know my family enjoys. After you get the meal planning done, it comes to the actual eating. And one of my favorite quotes is actually from Melissa Nasco's quote book, and she says, "You are not the lentils." I think as moms or dads, whoever's doing the cooking, it's really hard to cook something and have everybody hate it. I mean, that's no fun at all, or have people complain. And so you and your spouse need to be on the same page and have a plan for how you're going to attain this fasting environment for your family. In our house, we really have had different seasons where, number one, we still have a lot of little kids. I've also been pregnant or breastfeeding, and so there's times where doing a full stringent fast isn't possible for all the members of our family. So I think one great way to start learning how to fast and to introduce this into your family, if you're not doing it already, is to choose one meal a day. So in our house, no matter what's happening during the Great Fast, during these fasting periods in general, dinner is always fast friendly. So I only make one dinner. Everybody's eating that dinner. And then for lunch or breakfast, then the kiddos might have chicken nuggets or something else to give them a little bit more full belly, so that if they don't enjoy dinner, they're not starving anyways, or whatever the case may be. But they're practicing, and as a family, we eat that communal meal together that's meatless. And then as you get down the line, as the family gets used to it, you can add another meal, then add lunch, then add breakfast. So that is one way to get into the habit of the abstaining portion of the fast. For the actual not eating portion, you have to decide with your spouse, with your spiritual advisor or spiritual father, when it's appropriate to ask your children not to eat at all. And again, you all need to be on the same page about that to really put this on a positive light for the child. But what I would encourage you to do is to allow your child to practice fasting, perhaps not on Sunday or not on a day where they have a lot going on. So for example, if you are going to ask your daughter, in our case, your daughter, to start fasting, you can have her practice on a Saturday. So normally you eat breakfast at 7 a.m. before school. Today I'm going to ask you to try and wait until 10 so that she can experience what it feels like to be hungry, but without being in a position where she's stranded at school or it's the middle of liturgy and she's really, really miserable. And then the next Saturday you can do till 11 o'clock, and then you can do till noon. And then maybe you try it on Sunday morning and make it all the way through Divine Liturgy. So by providing like a practice or a warm-up for the fasting for longer periods of time, I think this is a great way to introduce it. And humbly, I'll offer that this is really the way I learned to fast, even on Sunday mornings. I really grew up with a tradition of just fasting 1 hour before Mass, and challenged myself to wait until after Divine Liturgy, which for us is around 1 o'clock, before I would be eating. And I was really afraid that I would be angry, hungry mom during church, and I didn't want that. And so I practiced fasting during the week, realized I could do it, and got over that mental hump, and then Sundays became no problem for me to be able to do that. So I think that's a great way to introduce fasting and to practice fasting. This is a skill. This is something that we have to get better at, and we need to allow ourselves that time to do it. And then my final point that I want to give you, just on a practical tip, whoever's doing the cooking at your house, in my house it's mine, I know for the fast we eat a lot of soups, but a lot of pasta dishes, plain dishes in general. And so I always round out our Lenten meals with a loaf of crusty bread. I've learned how to make bread at home. but just really yummy bread, salad, and fruit. So that way, even if somebody's not crazy about the main dish, they can still fill up their belly and get their nutritional needs met with rounding it out with some of those other items as well that are fast friendly. So I hope this encourages you and helps you to come up with some ideas for your own family, how you can improve your family's fasting life. And I just want to encourage you that these skills that we give to our children, these spiritual practices that we start them with young, are going to benefit them so much more as they grow and learn to know our Lord. And the end goal is that we'll be with them in heaven. And so anything that we can do to prod them along on that journey is important and worthy of our effort. God bless. I am praying for you.